Thanks, Jenny. Welcome, everyone. This is not as good as being in person, but I am so glad to see all your faces, and thanks for giving us your time this morning. The first thing I'll do is give a land acknowledgement. From coast to coast, we acknowledge the traditional, ancestral, ceded, and unceded territories of First Nations people, the Inuit and the Métis, the people that call these lands home. We reaffirm our commitment and responsibility to care for the lands, to work to strengthen our relationship with the First People, and to improve our own understandings of their unique histories, homelands, languages, cultural practices, and spiritual beliefs. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past and the present. Let us consider how we can each, in our own way, move forward in a respectful and meaningful spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Let us bow in acknowledgement to the thousands of children who died at the hands of colonial powers and to the families whose hearts are broken to this day. Now it is my honor to introduce Juanita Desjardins and to invite her to open this meeting in a good way. Juanita is Cree from Treaty 6 in Alberta. She is a person with much lived experience, and she is and has been a very powerful activist. She is a mother, and she has joined our Stronger Together BC project to adapt our Healing Hearts and Holding Hope models for the Indigenous communities of BC. So Juanita, are you here?
Leslie, I am not seeing Juanita has entered our meeting yet, so we may have to come back to Juanita when she arrives.
Right, we will do that, and you will be able to see, you'll see her when she arrives. Okay, great. Yeah. So we'll just move on. So next, I get to talk even more now. I think it'll be all right now. It's an emotional time, right? So good day and welcome to everyone to this, the fifth meeting, but really the fourth, I think the fourth formal AGM that we've had since 2016. 2020 was, by all accounts, a very, very challenging year. Not only have we lived so far, we have so far lived through the pandemic, we have lived through the worst epidemic of drug-related deaths ever in Canada. In some provinces, Alberta to wit, we see backwards movement by the government. In some provinces, we see slow but concrete progress. We have warrior mums in every province, and our mum voice is becoming louder all the time. Thank you all for attending this meeting. We're really hopeful and optimistic that next year our AGM might be held in person. Oh, I think I have the wrong page. Oh, here we go, sorry, I'm okay. And I want to say, I remember that I include dads, other men, siblings, and all who are members of Mums Stop the Harm, not just moms. In 2020, it was sometimes difficult for me to call up my resilience, but I never lost my resolve to continue to fight for the lives of people who use drugs and to support the families. The coming year provides us with plenty of opportunities to advocate for better policies and laws. We need more harm reduction sites. We need to fight for decriminalization. We need to push our governments toward a workable implementation of safer supply. And those are just the primary battles. We want governments to provide oversight and regulation of recovery facilities. We want to see full spectrum of services for those who are seeking recovery. So there is something here for everyone. If you are able, make this a year that we fight harder and louder for change. And maybe the best some of us can do is just to stay balanced, moving forward in our lives, living with the challenges of grief or anxiety for our loved ones. Our organization is based primarily on one thing, and that is love. From that place, we will succeed. Thanks so much, and I will turn the floor over to Petra to introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Leslie, and I echo those words with love and power and compassion, and with our collective strength and our we will move forward. And our collective strength includes other organizations and other individuals that we work with closely, and we are very pleased today to have one of those individuals with us, Guy Felicella. He's a fellow advocate, and he's a dear friend to some of us personally, but also to Mom Stop the Harm as an organization. And I thank him for coming, and I thank his family for sharing him this morning. He's a busy family man with 3 little children. Guy speaks from a very unique lived experience in his recovery journey. Guy has experienced harm reduction. It saved his life, and he's found recovery. He's a peer clinical advisor with the BC Center on Substance Use, and he's a fierce advocate for harm reduction and safe supply. And he lives in the Vancouver area with his family. And today he's going to tell us a little more about safe supply, but also a little bit about the background of the war on drugs and why it's given us so much harm. So I'd like to turn over the floor to Guy Felicella. If you, we have a little bit of time after his talk for some questions. So if you have questions of Guy, I would suggest you type those in the chat. Some of us might also respond to the chat already while Guy is speaking, and then we'll put a couple of questions to him at the end. So please welcome Guy Felicella, virtual clap.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for having me. It's a tremendous honor to be able to speak to all of you today. I'm going to, share a little bit about our root causes and what's behind the war on drugs, how it's rooted in our society, our values and beliefs. But I'm also going to share a brief, thorough line of my story and how the war on drugs has really impacted and nearly ended my life numerous times, and basically how harm reduction saved it and gave me the ability to find my recovery journey. There'll be many, I hope this inspires all of us to understand that us as people are connected by one thing, each other, and that we have to keep working and stay with that connection to each other and keep pushing the boundaries in our society so that people understand it. I hope my story inspires you to continue the work. I know how hard it is inside some days. I know how challenging it is to wake up every day. But this, I hope, inspires you to keep going, because we are making a difference in our society. It may not always seem like it, but we really are. So we have to go back to the beginning. Prohibition. What is it? Is it good or bad? Where did it come from? Who actually benefits from it? A little history. In 1870, there was 3 opium factories in BC: Vancouver, Victoria, and New Westminster. Opium smoking was widely popular with early Chinese immigrants to Metro Vancouver. As these workers are here in this picture, taking a puff at a break at an Imperial Canning in Richmond in 1913. Everything is fine. Nobody's complaining. Opium is the exact same as heroin. Vancouver Powell Street race riots after September 7th, 1907. The government of Canada is fearful, white people specifically are fearful that Chinese immigrants are taking their jobs away from them. And so they respond by calling a council together to limit and to eliminate the opium in our society. Now, anti-opium legislation was introduced from this individual named William Mackenzie. And it wasn't issued by a health order. It was issued by a labor order, prohibiting opium use primarily by Chinese people. But however, left alone opioid tonics and drinks used primarily by white people. So the start of the war on drugs is rooted in our racist policies that continue to exist today in our society. And it's really why society as a whole has so much disdain towards people who use drugs, is that even though you may not have known this, we still actually feel this underlying current in our issues of society today. And I encourage all of you to actually read up on the war on drugs. And here's a great book on the Canada's war on drugs, and it's called Busted by Susan Boyd. And it's not born out of medical concerns or public concerns. Its roots lie clearly in racism. Now, if you look at colonialization, prohibition, and the Indian Act, Canada's very first drug prohibition was aimed at First Nations people. Alcohol and social drinking was prohibited from 1868 to 1955, and some provinces took 10 plus years to lift this ban. It did not stop any drinking. Prohibition didn't stop one thing. There was a $300 fine for selling or being intoxicated, and 50% of that money went to an Indian agent or informant. 2 months imprisonment for drinking, and increased covert and dangerous drinking, illegal consumption and selling was discouraged, and social drinking. If you look at laws and policies in our society, it's all born on racism. So basically supporting this act or allowing it to continue will never end racism in our society if this is allowed to continue. And I want everybody to understand this is the root cause of our issues that we deal with today. It's the sole reason of why many people in our society are dying today. This law needs to change, and we need to keep fighting to change it. Prohibition has made three things happen in our society, which has created structural stigma, which is prejudice and discrimination by our laws and policies and institutions, which fuels the general population's stereotypes and prejudice towards people who use drugs, and it's endorsed by us, the population. This internalizes self-stigma, feelings of shame, and low self-efficiency and low self-worth. It means any drug user out there feels this, and it's the weight of the world. It's the driving force behind why people use alone and die because of it. And stigma in our society is just as deadly as those drugs themselves. It is lethal, and it has to stop. And the only way to stop stigma is to actually go back to who created it, which is the government. The government has created the laws and policies in our society, and it continues to be the driving force of why people continue to die. You may know me, but you have absolutely no idea who I am. You see me, you may see me when I present that I'm a substance user, but you have no understanding of what I've lived through. It's not just a person that is using drugs. It's also a person that could be struggling with abuse, trauma, pain, loneliness, isolation. And that sadness is driven by our bad policies towards people. This is me 10 years ago, a person who was using drugs, struggling. Medical professionals looked at me as opiate use disorder, substance use disorder, almost as a prisoner with a number. But to the rest of society, I'm a loser, I'm a junkie, I'm a criminal. This is a person who's struggling with trauma, but this is not where the trauma had started. This is. I grew up in a middle-class home in Richmond, BC. My parents came from Europe. I have one brother, one sister. We lived in a big house. Things looked good from the outside, had clothes, went to school. Inside the household, there was domestic violence. My mother drank. My father went out. Both of them struggled with their own isolation. And me, at a very young age, started to develop anxiety, depression, and self-hatred. I looked for ways to distract myself from the pain that I was feeling as a kid. I knew where the cracks in the floor were, so I wouldn't startle people. It was like a soldier walking around a landmine field, just waiting for the bomb to go off. Who at 6 years old would know where those cracks are? Who would think like that at 6 years old? Childhood, I had to grow up fast. I had to learn quickly. And I struggled. I struggled in school and I was called hyper, difficult, hard to manage. Why can't you learn like everybody else? What's wrong with you? Put in a cubicle, laughed at, made fun of. I hated school. But nobody could understand what I was dealing with at home. I looked for ways to distract myself. I did. I tried baseball. I was good at sports. I was free when I was out there. I didn't think about all the pain, but sports doesn't last long. And I had to go back home. Oftentimes on a Friday, I'd come home from school, our bags would be packed. My mom would take us over to her mom's place in Victoria, but she'd always go back. There's nowhere to run. And by the time I was 12 years old, I realized that my parents were no longer fit to take care of me and that I had to figure this out for myself. So I started running away. I was constantly brought back by police. I tried to tell police I didn't want to be there, but they said there was no other place for me, that I was going back. I'd go, I'd stay, I'd get beat up, I'd leave again. And then things started to change. I found street drugs, 12 years old. It was the best thing I ever found in my life at that time, because if I didn't find them, I would have ended it. The thoughts of suicide were running through my head that it would be better off for me just to leave. And once I found those substances, it didn't matter what anybody was going to say anymore. I didn't care. I didn't care what you thought of me. That verbal abuse that it developed, that negative inner voice in my head, was gone. It numbed it. It quieted it enough that I could actually function through life. Unfortunate thing that started to happen in my life is I started venturing out and meeting people who were involved with gangs. And then the drugs got heavier. I started selling them. And by the time I was 14, I was incarcerated in juvenile detention for 1 year. And at the same time, my mom went to court and gave me up as a ward of the court. Now, if you're 14 years old, you really don't kind of understand what ward of the court meant. What that meant is now the province was going to take over the responsibility of me as a child and bounce me around wherever they felt needed. And they failed miserably. I was bounced around from group home to group home, from foster home to foster home, from school system to school system. I never had any stability. I could be up and moved. I could be in one school system on one day and another one on another day. And so I started running away from them. And I started venturing into the downtown east side of Vancouver at a very early age. It was very intimidating for a 14-year-old in the downtown east side. I went in, I purchased my drugs, I sold my drugs in other communities, and I kept going back and struggling. I slept in different areas of Vancouver because it was outside of the downtown east side area, because it is very intimidating for a young person, but it was also my encounters with police that I had already started to have, where I could see that I was a target for them. And so here I am, still running from them, running from the world, scared of everybody. The system is set up to fail. These drug policies that were in place were met with enforcement and punishment and abuse. I wasn't a human being because I was using drugs. I was a piece of garbage. I was disposable. I wasn't a human being to them. I was a criminal, one that needed to be punished and constantly punished. And I felt the weight of that. My juvenile years aren't out on a soccer field. They're in prison, in and out, constantly. No rehabilitation, just incarceration. Nobody cared. They only wanted me to pay for what I'd done. Eventually, from 1983 to 1993, I was in and out of the downtown east side of Vancouver, trying many attempts, forced into treatment, forced into different recovery modules as a youth drove me even further away into isolation, pain and suffering. And from 1993 to 2013, I never left a 2-block radius in the downtown east side of Vancouver. You picture any 2 blocks in your area and you never leave it. You don't go anywhere else. I was scared to even go pick up checks in New Westminster when I had GST there, just because of the way people would look at me, like I was some sort of animal. People were shielding their kids from me. I'd bury my head on a SkyTrain and go to New West with shame, embarrassment, just how people judged me. Inside, couldn't they see the pain? Or did they care? They just cared that I needed to be punished. And, you know, surviving what I had to survive, the prison sentences, the abuse, the HIV/AIDS crisis where 1 in 4 were infected in the downtown east side community where I lived in, the first dueling public health emergency that I lived through, the overdose crisis in the 90s, it didn't start in 2016. It's never ended. It's consistently rolling. The lack of urgency to address this crisis in the 90s, it's the byproduct of what we have today. Survived decades of homelessness. Homelessness is just as deadly. It's punishing. And to survive 5 osteomyelitis bone infections, 4 in my left leg and 1 in my back, where I had to relearn how to walk again, all caused by bad drug policies, not the drugs. It was where I had to use the drugs, back alleys, dirty water, same syringes. Nobody cared to offer anything. I asked for help at the health authority, they turned me away. The drug dealer never turned away. They always helped me. This is me, it's a person of losing hope, struggling. This is as bad as it probably ever got in my life. I remember when I see these pictures, I just see the same sadness from the picture of the child. Same trauma, the same struggle inside. And then to survive 6 repeated overdoses from 2012 to 2013 when fentanyl started to hit the streets. And this last particular overdose was February 18th, 2013, booth 5. I walked in like any other day, did my shot, woke up on the floor. When I came to, I pulled a tube out of my throat and looked over and the nurse was crying. I asked her why she was crying and she said, because I care. And I just started to cry. And she knew I wouldn't go to the hospital. She knew how I'd been treated there. She allowed me to stay in the nursing station where she would monitor me. And I knew that day that I had to do something different, that I was either going to die in my addiction or I was going to die trying to get out, but I was going to die trying. I wasn't going to die in a back alley. I didn't want that. I wanted to help. And the next day at the supervised consumption site, there's 2 lines, not just one to inject drugs. There's one to go to detox. And I've been in both those lines many times in my life. I used this facility over 4,088 times in a 10-year time frame. This place saved my life in more ways than one. It gave me the ability to find recovery. Harm reduction saved me from our bad drug policies that are in place. But at what point do we have to stop relying on harm reduction and change the drug policies so that harm reduction is not so strained? This is how harm reduction and recovery worked in my life. It was just a relay race. Both were on the same team, passing a baton back and forth, supporting each other, supporting me. I went through so many treatment modules, and every time I left, The safety net of harm reduction was there, like it should be for anyone. No one should have to leave a treatment facility to go use illicit drugs. They should have to leave a treatment facility to go use safer drugs. Safer drugs means safer labeling, knowing what people are taking. Fentanyl changed everything for me. I never overdosed once in 20 years using heroin. When fentanyl hit the streets, it changed the way I use drugs. 100 times more powerful, not as long lasting, meant every hour I had to do another fix. And then not knowing the dose, that's what killed me. Our policies in place are what kills people. Every life loss is a policy failure. If harm reduction didn't exist, then I wouldn't exist. These kids wouldn't exist. This family wouldn't exist. My life wouldn't exist. What I do today wouldn't exist. None of it exists without harm reduction. And when will we change those policies so that harm reduction will be able to move people in a way to support them? Because what we have right now is harm reduction is limited to its capacities because of our bad drug policies. We can't offer people safer substances. We can't offer people drugs that are known doses because of our bad drug policies. It goes back to the roots. This is Noah, Gia, and baby Leo. And the same trauma that I'd endured as a child was very fearful for me when I was started to have kids. And I remember being diagnosed at the age of 40 with ADHD and a mild comprehension disorder similar to dyslexia. 40. I carried the shame inside. I never shared with anybody how stupid I felt as a person because I felt stupid. I was always told I can't learn like anybody else. I remember the day that the specialist said, "Oh, you're not stupid. You're one of the smartest people I've met because you've had to survive without having any support for it." I said, "Everybody just pointed at the drugs." She says, "I'm sure that's why you use the drugs." I remember the tears rolling down my face, and it opened my mind to believe I'm not stupid. I'm a human being. I'm a person. I care about people. I care about you. That was the moment where people started to really support me, and it changed me inside. It developed me into the person. I don't regret what I'd gone through from the bad drug policies. It did make me into the person that I am today, but we need to change those policies because people are suffering immensely. Families and communities, people I meet every day are suffering because of it. We have to continue this. The biggest thing that you're ever going to have in your life to anyone is providing human connection, and it will change the direction in people's lives. You guys are doing it. You're showing up. You're supporting people, people who are struggling, people who are hurt, rightfully so, people who lost a loved one. What you guys do is provide hope to people's lives. Not only hope to people who've lost people, but hope to future people. Education, awareness, and understanding of where the roots lie is our biggest impact that we can have in society to change the perception of why people believe the way that they do. It's appalling that any government at any level will continue to have these racist drug policies in place and continue to watch while allowing people die month after month across the country. Unacceptable. It's egregious. The blood stains that are on this country is unacceptable. Who'd have thought they could spend decades being homeless, using drugs, on welfare, poor, shamed, verbal abuse, beaten, prison, criminalized, stigmatized. Battle your way out of that. The only reason why I'm here today is because of the people that support me in this society. Because people stopped punishing me and started to support me. People showed up. I want to share with you one of the most impactful closing stories that I have in people's lives. I hope this inspires you insight to never give up hope. My grandmother witnessed the abuse of my life as a child, watched me struggle, did everything she could to protect me. When I started to fall away as a youth and go into the downtown east side, and when I buried myself in that community, my grandmother would come down twice a year, every year, usually around my birthday or around Christmas, get on a Greyhound bus from Victoria, come into the downtown east side and find me. She would take me out for lunch, and she'd take whoever I was with out for lunch. She'd have just always encouraged me. She sprinkled those moments of hope when I needed to hear something good about myself, that she was there to do it. In 2013, when I left the downtown east side of Vancouver, and in November of 2013, when my wife became pregnant with our first child, my grandmother was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and the cancer was spreading throughout her body. And she was moved into palliative care, and she was given 2 weeks to live. And we thought, well, we'll go let her know that she's going to be a great grandmother. Went to palliative care. And I remember telling her, and the tears that rolled down that lady's face, she was overwhelmed with joy. And she said, I can't wait to meet my great grandchild. And I said, Grandma, you won't. You only have 2 weeks to live. And she grabbed my hand and she said, no, I'm gonna stay. And I said, okay. So daily, my wife and I, at 7 o'clock for her favorite 2 shows, Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, Black Starbucks coffee, we battled it out. Very competitive, I might add. She was always seemed to be a little bit smarter than me, a little bit quicker than me. The palliative care nurses were starting to ask questions because a month had passed, 2 months had passed. I couldn't understand why she was still here. Then when we found out it was a boy, we raced to tell her. And we told her his name. She was holding the ultrasound and something happened. She was holding, she started to cry. And she's like, I just love his name. What a beautiful name, Noah. Oh, he's gonna be a special boy. And the way she held that was like she was holding him. And it was a roller coaster ride of emotions because I just kept showing up like she did in my life. And 9 months later, we wheeled her out of palliative care and she held her great grandson, Noah, for the first and only time. And I want to tell you, I went back to see her and I could see the physical impacts that cancer had taken on her. I could see that she was struggling. And she just told me, I had to stay. I had to witness the miracle. The miracle is that everybody gave up on you. I never gave up on you. And the miracle is that Noah's a miracle. You're a miracle. And I had to stay to make sure that you were going to be okay. And I told my grandmother, I'm going to be okay. And she said, you go run that race now. You don't have to run from it. You're running it. And I promised her I would. And I told her I wasn't coming back anymore because I didn't want to see anymore. And I told her to let go. And a short time later, we got the call that she had passed. That's the power of human connection that you all have. Is my grandmother never judged me and she never gave up on me. She continued to show up in the downtown east side and give me moments of hope that I was going to make it out somehow. She never gave up. And what I had done is what she had taught me is I provided her with the same human connection, is that when we bring people along with the journey and tell them that we're proud of them, it was those moments of connection that willed her to stay 9 months to witness a miracle. And the miracle is that none of it would happen without harm reduction. If anybody, I post a lot of my stuff on these 3 sites. You can always follow me there. You can reach out, you can DM me at any time. I'm always here to support you guys. I want you to know that we are moving forward, and we can never give up, because there's so many, not only this generation, but the future generations need our support. And who'd have thought that 10 years ago that I was on Vancouver Police Department's most wanted list, and in 2020 I was on Vancouver Magazine's top Power 50 lists. So it just goes to show you that when you stop punishing people and start supporting people, that people do improve the quality of their lives and wellness. And remember that you know, we collectively together will change this. We have to keep asking the tough questions about the policies and the procedures that are in place. Those are the roots. We can keep targeting those and helping our future people in our society. I want to thank you very much for having me, and I'm here to answer any and all of your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Guy. I'm quite sure that is not a dry eye on this call right now. The story of your grandmother it's so powerful, and it symbols so much. It symbolizes hope and staying connected, and the power of that connection. And you really explained that. And we are so glad. We are so glad you're here, and so glad that you can share your story in the way you do. Now we have there were actually a lot of comments, a lot of people just very moved by your presentation, a lot of people thanking you for your presentation, agreeing with points you raised around trauma, around hope, around connection and stigma. And we have a couple of questions. One I'd like to put to you first. If it doesn't inspire too much pain in you, did your mom or dad, not too much pain answering this question, did your mom or dad ever come to terms with the person you are and see you through a different lens, and maybe saw themselves through a different lens too? So we'll leave it with that question first, and then I have another one for you.
Yeah, I mean, I've just rebuilt my my relationship with my father this last year, so it's actually going really well. He's very much a part of my life. You know, what I understood was about him is, as well as the trauma that he endured in his country, in Naples, where he was born and raised. So, you know, trauma will continue to pass itself around until somebody actually stops it. And so for me, I had been the one to stop the trauma from continuing to move any further into my own children's life. So trauma will continue to repeat itself. And unfortunately, what starts to happen is that unless we address that, you know, you can only take so much trauma in before it starts to come out in certain ways, and whether that will affect you negatively. So in my life, I had to be the one to put an end to it and make sure that it didn't get passed on to my kids and others as well in our society. I have never been, I remember, and I still go to trauma therapy today. Unfortunately, it's not covered under MSP, which it should be, so that, you know, people can have access to trauma therapy. I think that's one of the big things that I'm advocating for as well, is that so people have access to trauma therapy to reduce those harms. once you start to address the trauma, then people can be more successful in other areas of their lives. But until that happened in my life, I just couldn't function. And my relationship with my mother, although it may be somewhat strained some days, it just depends. I understand that you know, I've forgiven a lot of my life. I think forgiveness is a big part of my life. I know I needed to be forgiven as well for a lot of the things that I had done in society and to others. And so you just have to you have to make do with what's available. And for me, I'm just gonna be kind instead of being angry, because I understand that I was angry for a long time, and it really hurt me. And really, you know, I was drinking the poison all the time, expecting it to hurt everybody else. And that just didn't happen. I just stopped drinking it, and it you know, got to a place where it was like, I'm just gonna let it go. Yeah, a lot of pressure. And once I let it go, I just started to free up my mind. And so yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Thank you, Guy. Kind of a follow-up to that. Do you think that the fact that your grandma never gave up on you, did that help you build resilience?
100%. 100%. My grandmother, I will never forget her. And how could I? I mean, she just showed up. She didn't care that I used drugs. She really didn't. She never told me like, hey, you know, this is your problem. She didn't say that. I mean, she obviously, I think, you know, she's a very smart woman. And I think where she came from, she fled Germany in the war to come to Canada. So she understood a lot about having to flee a country and resilience. And it's probably where I get it from, was from that woman. She's a very strong-willed German lady who never gave up and never stopped believing in people. I mean, you know, your grandmother not only taking me out for my grandmother not taking me, she didn't care who I was with. She'd take them too. Let's go, we'll all go eat. I was just like, that's great. She was instrumental in showing up in those moments to give me hope. And when she even became sick and couldn't come down, she would send Christmas cards and birthday cards to Insight, and a nurse would give me the card and there would be money inside of it, and I just break down and start crying because she would make me take money. She would say, listen, I want you to have this. I know you will do some good with it. And she was right, because there was a lot of people that I had a lot of friends, and I helped a lot of people out when she would give me money. And she knew that. And she didn't care that how I was going to help people out. She didn't ask those questions. She cared. She was giving because she wanted to give. Those are the powerful moments I've just never forgotten. And same with anybody else in my life that showed up and exercised that. It was the same thing.
Yeah. And we all have that ability. We all have that strength to be that person in somebody's life, and that is so important. We could continue that conversation for a long time. I'd like to bring one question to you that's of a more political nature. And I don't know, that's maybe not an easy one, but it's one thing we must ask governments to do today to drive change. And in the longer term, what can we do to change that societal stigma that impacts people so much? So how can we change that collaboratively? So kind of a two-part, you know, what does government have to do now, and how do we change as society?
Well, I think the government has to change the laws and policies that really created the stigma in the first place in our institutions. I think you really have to dismantle it, not just, you really have to look at each level of it. So dismantle it, rebuild it, and then also, I think, you know, listen, regulation of a substance is possible. Listen, we've done it with alcohol. We've done it with tobacco. Really, a lot of the times people often say it's fentanyl, it's killing people. Yes, it's the dose. Listen, if people knew what they were taking and knew the limit of what you were taking, this is the part, is that I just used, when I was using drugs, I would use what I usually use every time. Nothing changed. The drugs changed, the potency level changed. That's what kills people. So you could regulate a substance like heroin, diacetylmorphine, in a way where people could have access to it. And for that, a couple of things need to happen. The CDSA, the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, needs to be amended. If you look at the government, what they've done with COVID and how quickly they came up with a vaccine in a year, we could do the same thing in Canada with coming up with making heroin and offering it to people in our societies as an alternative to the illicit drug supply. And I can tell you this, when I was overdosing in 2012 and 2013, I had the luxury of just walking down a different street to pick up heroin. Now that it's very, very challenging to find heroin in the province of British Columbia. I'm sure it's available some way, but it's just so unpredictable. So I think regulation is a big thing. I think we have to continue to push the policies and laws and talk about those policies and laws. I think decriminalization is where people just don't deserve to be punished for circumstances, whether you're a substance user, whether your substance use is problematic. Even irresponsible substance users don't deserve to die. Nobody deserves to die, and unfortunately, in our society, the risk of people who are using substances are dying, and oftentimes our society reflects to the homeless population or people who are struggling with poverty as the people that are using the substances. That is not the case. It's in every community. And most people who are dying in private residence. So we have to change those issues. But unless we address the root causes, which is the drug policies, it's just basically bathing in the same dirty bathwater, because it limits you on what you can do to bring forward for people who are struggling with drugs. It limits you in safe supply. It limits you to deter people from actually accessing through a healthcare. And we need another model outside of the medical system with safer supply. We need one that people can just access, not just like alcohol. You don't need a prescription to go get alcohol. Nobody's asking you 20,000 questions of what drugs you've used that day when you go in there to purchase your alcohol. It should be the same thing with substances. And if we did that, I can tell you this, that it would be illicit drugs. There's always that thing with when they're illicit, people want them. If they're available, I don't think we're in such people often think, oh my God, if we regulate them, there'd be chaos. Well, I think it would actually go down a lot. I don't think you have a lot of people trying it, if it's regulated. I think we're in a better place with regulation than we are with the illicit drug market, because we just don't know what it is. Or when we find out, we're too late.
Thank you so much. This is actually a perfect segue to the little presentation I'm giving later in this meeting on decriminalization, what it is, and where we need to move. So once again, there are other questions people have. If you didn't get to your question, please email us at info@momstoptheharm.com, and we will do our best to get to those questions. This talk will also be become part of the video, and we probably have the technology to even segment it out and post it separately if you want to watch this talk again. And thank you so much, Guy. You're welcome to stay and be part of our business meeting if you like, but your family probably has stuff to do with you. So Jenny will put that lovely Mom Stop the Harm t-shirt in the mail, and I can't wait giving you a hug in person again one of these days soon, and hopefully you will be wearing your Mom Stop the Harm shirt when I do. So thank you again so much, and giant hug to all of you. We really love you, and we are in this together, and together we will change it. Thank you. And then I'm handing back to Leslie for the formal business part. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Guy. Thank you, Petra, and thanks, Guy. I understand that Juanita is in the building, as it were, and I would really like to have Juanita give us starting our meeting in a good way. Juanita, if you're right there, I've already introduced you. And I'll just remind people that Juanita is Cree from Treaty 6 in Alberta. She has a great deal of lived experience, and she is a very, very powerful activist. She is a mother, and she's joined our Stronger Together BC project to help adapt our Healing Hearts and Holding Hope models for Indigenous communities. So we're very grateful. Juanita.
Good morning. Just want to say Tansei. Tansei in my language means something similar to hello. And oh, I'm just so full of emotion today, but very thankful, you know, to Guy for sharing his truth and experience. You know, and I think it's like amazing and a miracle that you know, he's able to be here today to share, you know, his story with people. Sorry, just give me a moment here. And it's very moving and very powerful. So it just kind of brings me back to, you know, to the very beginning of, you know, being a teenager and, you know, beginning this path of advocacy. So it just shows, you know, how much more change that we need, you know, together and to go forward in this good way. So I'm just going to start and clear my mind here. And I'm going to ask everybody to, you know, just to try to clear their mind, you know, at this time, and take 4 deep breaths in through your nose, through your mouth.
Or just grab it now, it don't matter.
So I just want to acknowledge the unceded Coast Salish territory upon where we are guests. Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and the Squamish Nation. Just feel so blessed to be able to be surrounded by such beauty and an abundance of water, you know, clean water, animals, you know, in that good way, and medicines. And, you know, I have the honor of, you know, being raised on the West Coast with the Chehalis, and so in English, or in their language, it would be Chehalis Nation. And I learned, you know, like so much of their culture and language as opposed to my own. And, you know, it really is a beautiful way of life. So I just wanted to share that. And I just going to start off with a little prayer. Creator, grandmas, grandpas, ancestors, your granddaughter, Sinte Sapatuia. Just want to give thanks, grandmas and grandpas, for this beautiful day. Want to give thanks for this beautiful way of life, grandmas and grandpas, and for everything that you provide and nourish us with in that good way. Want to say thank you, grandmas and grandpas. And I just want to ask for blessings today, grandmas and grandpas, for all of our relatives that are here right now, grandmas and grandpas, the ones who are, you know, going forward in this good way, doing this good work. And I pray that, you know, you keep everybody centered in that good way, one mind, one heart, grandmas and grandpas, that we continue, you know, to encourage, support each other in that good way, grandmas and grandpas. Bless our path in that good way, to be clear, to be mindful, to, you know, speak in those good ways, you know, from our heart and from our mind, grandmas and grandpas. And pray that you provide us, you know, individually with everything that we need, grandmas and grandpas, a full fridge, you know, supportive friends in that good way, nourishing water, clean water in that good way, grandmas and grandpas. You know, continue to bless us like that. And I just pray that everybody, you know, is able to walk clearly in that good way. And I want to say thank you, all my relations.
Relations. Thank you. Thank you so much, Juanita. It's good to see your beautiful face. And we will we'll just go forward. Thanks so much. Okay, my cat's decided to be right in front of the screen now. So, now we're on to the business part of our meeting. We've had such a beautiful, beautiful start. Grateful to Guy and to Juanita. Excuse me while I just grab the cat. First on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. And I would like to make a motion to approve the agenda. And I believe my beloved colleague and co-founder Petra will second the motion. Yes, thank you. Now, Jenny, I can't remember, did we describe the polling action? You're muted, Jenny.
We do have a new polling system. I just need Angela's support to figure out I'm getting just one polling question. Oh, here we are. I figured it out. This is brand new for us using this technology. So we've got the approval of the agenda. You're going to see a box pop up on the screen, and you have the choice of yes, no, or abstain. So Leslie, if you could read that statement out, that would be great on the poll.
I don't see the poll come up on my screen yet.
No one sees that? Okay. But I'm launching it. I forgot the launch
there we
button.
go.
Bear with me. It's all brand new.
Okay,
we
good.
go.
Good. That looks good. So I make the motion to approve the agenda, and I believe Petra has already seconded the motion. And if you could just please mark your screens, and it will automatically go into the poll. It's anonymous, and go for it.
Isn't technology amazing?
Isn't-
Haven't we learned so much this past year?
Did that work?
Yeah, we're just
Yes.
waiting for everyone to vote. Just a few more seconds. It shows us on the screen. Great. So we'll end the poll now. And
Okay.
that has passed.
All right,
So
that's
the
great.
agenda is approved.
Thanks, Jenny. Next, and we'll do this quickly too, the approval of the minutes from the 2020 AGM. I think you all have had an opportunity to look at that. And I make a motion to approve the minutes from the last AGM, May 30th, 2020. And Petra seconds that motion, and then we will vote on that.
And I'm going to launch it again. There we go.
There we go. So please.
Jennifer, let's give it a couple of minutes. Some people are saying that
Sure.
the poll wasn't up very long, so.
Okay.
Tell me when I should begin again there, Angela. Or Jen.
Let's give it a minute. We're at 38 seconds now. So.
Okay, all right.
Great. So
The thing that we are practicing with these motions, then when it comes to voting for the board, we'll all be experts and know how it works.
That's right. It'll go quickly.
So
Um,
that the minutes were passed. I'm going to end the poll.
Thank you. And the minutes from the 2020 AGM have passed. So next, I would like to introduce Stu Jennings, who is our accountant, and he is going to present the financial report from 2020. Stu, are you with us?
I think I am now.
There we go.
There we
Hi,
go.
Stu. Good to see you. Yeah, so the floor is yours.
Well,
Oh,
okay. I
there
was
we
going to
go.
say, everybody's got a copy of the financial statements. That's the introductory page. If you go down, there's the balance sheet, which is, I think, fairly straightforward. It shows on top the comparative with last year. We have $109,000 of cash in the bank. That's our bank balance, basically. And the allocation of that 109 that you can see down below under the members' equity, the general funds, which is available for Mom Stop the Harm to, I guess, use in any way they choose fit according to the budget. And you can see the comparative numbers. So the amount of funds that we have at the end of the year is 65,000. And the excess of receipts and disbursements will just come later on the next slide. And the grant funds is the various monies that we have been given from sources with what I would call restrictions attached to them there for specific purposes. The main one being the Stronger Together project. So the 65 is in general funds and 44,000 is in grant funds. So if we go down to the next slide, you can see the transactions for the year of our general funds, where we took in $32,000 in donations, fundraisers, and a little bit of money came through grants that were for general purposes. And then how we disperse the money is in the next thing. We spent almost $35,000. So our bottom line out of our general funds is we overspent $2,700, keeping in mind that we had 55 excess the year before and some from the year before that. So later I'll show you where we're at. And then if you go down to the next statement is the fund transactions, what monies have come in from grants and how that money is spent. So we have $44,000 left over in grant money. Now that $44,000 is in the form of 3 different funds, the main one being Stronger Together, and the balance sitting in Stronger Together is $38,000 in round numbers. And then we still have $5,000 left over from a grant we received from Emergent for the AGM, I guess for last year or the year before, that we didn't spend. And we have $940 left over from a grant from Emergent for the photo shoot. So that's what makes up that $44,000. The 94 up top, most of that money came from the Stronger Together, which is $85,000. And then there was the $8,000 from Emergent in the 2 different funds. And then a little bit of money that we got to supplement Jenny's salary at the beginning. I forget where that came from the UBC or something. There was a $1,269 receipt there. I don't know if anybody has any questions of any of the numbers or sources or
I would just, the UBC, excuse me, the UBC money was left over from other donations from years before. And they were just holding those funds for us. So they were donations.
Okay,
Reading the messages.
I don't see any questions in the chat. So shall we, I'll close the screen here and we'll go back to our poll, Leslie, around the financial statement.
So we would need a vote on for the approval of the financial report. And I will make a motion to approve, and Petra will second, I think, if she wants to. Yep, she does. All right, let's do the poll. And oh, I see, we already have, okay.
That's
good.
okay.
All right.
So the poll says Annie and I second, but we'll change that in the actual minutes to reflect it was Leslie and Petra.
It's just the way the agenda reads, so it could be any of us, but that's great.
Yeah.
It's great to have the enthusiasm, you know?
I don't think I can actually second anything until I'm the director, so I've been abstaining on these.
Yeah, that's true. Thanks, Annie.
While we wait for the poll, we should remind everybody that everybody who joined us today will have their name entered in a draw for 3 Moms Stop the Harm t-shirts. And Jenny will do the draw and then email the lucky people to determine sizes and colors and designs. And those of you who don't win one, they're available in our Moms Stop the Harm shop link from the homepage.
Great. Okay, thank you everyone for helping us with that new polling system. It worked well. I'll hand it back to Leslie.
Okay, so we assume that that was passed then from the
Yes,
poll.
that was
Okay.
passed, yeah.
Okay, so the budget or the financial statement are approved and passed. Thank you so much. Thanks, Stu. Thanks a lot. Go play golf now.
Yeah.
He's
No, that's
gone.
what you're gonna do.
He's gone.
There's no secrets. All right. I would like to acknowledge, we're going to acknowledge 2 of our board members who are retiring from the board who this year, or from the past year. And it's my pleasure to talk a little bit about Helen Jennings, who has, I can't find my notes now. How could they be gone already? Helen is not only a close friend, she is one of the original members of Moms Stop the Harm. And she has taken on the role of treasurer over these last about 5 years, I think it is, Helen. And she did that when she knew and felt that this wasn't really her niche, but she did it anyway, and she did a great job, and we are so grateful, and we miss you on the board. But we know that what you're doing, you've sort of made a lateral move now, and Helen has gone over to the job of managing the facilitator training of our Holding Hope, or sorry, both groups, right? Holding Hope and Healing Hearts groups. So Helen, thank you so much for your service as a treasurer, and we're so grateful that you're in the position that you are now, because it's really important and helpful. So yeah, thanks for all your advocacy, all your public speaking, and I know you'll continue to do all that. And we look forward to seeing you in the other meetings for the Stronger Together. So Helen, thank you so much.
Thanks, Leslie. It's been an honor to work in any capacity in this group. of people that I believe are my tribe and work so hard to hear more and more success stories like Guy's. So thanks everybody. And I hope we have a really great year going forward.
Thanks. And I'll turn it over to Petra.
Yeah, thank you as well, Helen. And we have another board member leaving us, ending with this meeting, ending their term, and that's Sheila Jennings from Ontario, from Toronto. Sheila joined us in 2017, and she was the first board member who joined us who hadn't lost a loved one. She continues to support her son in whatever way he needs support and brings those connections that Guy talked about earlier. Sheila also helped us to put Mom Stop the Harm on the map in Ontario and build our strong team there, and helped us recruit the board members from Ontario that will continue to work there. She's a volunteer with CAMH. She teaches at university and brings a Mom Stop the Harm message to her students. So we really want to thank Sheila for all the hard work and contribution she has brought to Mom Stop the Harm. Sheila will continue as, just like Helen has not gone away. Sheila has stepped down from the board, but will continue to work as an advocate in Ontario and also national as she's needed. So Sheila, if you just want to introduce yourself briefly to people who might not know you.
Petra, I think Sheila's lost her connection, so we're
Oh,
hoping that she can
yeah.
make it back.
So hopefully she'll be back. She lost audio earlier. So thank you. Thank you to Sheila. She can watch her thank yous on the video later, I guess. So back to you, Leslie.
Okay, thank you, Petra. And thank you both, Helen and Sheila. Invaluable work, invaluable. Next on our agenda is to introduce the returning board members, or have them introduce themselves. So I'd like you all, and myself as well, to just please introduce yourself by stating your name, your position, and where you're located in the country. So I'll start, and I'm Leslie McBain. As you know, I'm the chair of Mom Stop the Harm, and I live on Pender Island in British Columbia. Petra.
I'm Petra Schulz. I'm the vice chair of Mom Stop the Harm. I normally come to you from Edmonton, Alberta, but I'm in Germany for another 3 weeks, and then I'm finally coming home, and I look forward to that.
Thanks, Petra. Deb?
I'm Deb Bailey. I'm the secretary on the board and work on memberships as well. And I'm coming to you from Vancouver, British Columbia.
Thank you. Angela.
Hello, everybody. I'm Angela Wells, and I'm a member at large on the board of directors, and I am in Edmonton, Alberta.
Thank you, Angela. Marie Adjuritas.
Hey everybody, I'm Marie Adjuritas. I am from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. I too am a member at large, and welcome.
And welcome to you too. Thanks, Marie. And Christine.
Hi, I'm Christine Wingate from Director for Ontario, and I live in Portland, which is just outside of Ottawa, about an hour south of Ottawa. Welcome.
Thank you, Christine. And is it Isabel Fortier, are you still with us? I know she had to leave early, but.
No, I'm here.
Oh, there you are, yay, okay.
I'm here. So
Hi,
Isabelle
Isabelle.
Fortier, hi there. Member at large for Quebec. I'm located in Montreal. So bonjour tout le monde.
Bonjour, thank you, merci. Okay, so now what we're going to do is another poll, and the poll will come up on your screen again for now the returning members. This is a slate, so this includes all of us. So it's either all or nothing. So please vote, and we'll see what happens with our returning board members. Thank you.
And while we wait, this is actually the first time that we had people retire from our board. So we've been very fortunate to have people stay and very consistently work. And we are very excited about the board members that you will be meeting shortly. The board candidates, they are looking to join us for this year.
We are a working board, and it's a lot of work. So that makes us even more grateful for having new members willing and happy to participate.
Okay, the poll is now ended and it was unanimous. Pass.
Thank you very much. So what am I supposed to say here besides hooray, or we have a passed, I guess, the motion to, what do I say?
For the slate board return of
the, yeah,
returning members.
Returning board members. Thank you. Okay, and so let's move on then to having the new candidates, the new candidates for the board to again introduce themselves just as their name and what they will hopefully become on the board and where they are. So we'll begin with Annie. Annie Story.
Sorry, technical difficulties here. I'm Annie Story. I'm new to Mom Stop the Harm this year, and I'm coming on the board and also as treasurer. And I live in Sechelt, British Columbia.
Thank you, Annie. Andy Watson.
Hi, Andy Watson in Victoria, member at large candidate with a strategic communications and media relations lens. Nice to meet everyone.
Good to see you, Andy. Thank you. And Willie McCorston.
Hi, I'm Willie McCorston. I'm from Kindersley, Saskatchewan. I have been hanging around with Marie for a couple of years now. I really value these ladies and I value the work that Mom Stop the Harm does, so I'm happy to be involved.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Willie. Thanks for the stickers. I got the stickers in the mail. Arlene Kolb. You with
Hi.
us?
Yes, I'm
There
here.
you are.
Hi. Arlene Kolb from Winnipeg, Manitoba. Hi, everyone.
Hi, welcome, Arlene. And Missy McLean.
Hi, everyone. Missy McLean. I'm here on Mississauga Chippewa Nation territory, otherwise known as Cobourg, Ontario, and I'm hoping to join Christine as a regional director for Ontario.
Thanks, Missy. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Charlene Vacon.
Hi, everyone. I'm Charlene. I'm in St. Lazare, Quebec, and I've been with the Mom Stop the Harm group of great people. Someone said it was their tribe. That's how I feel too. And that started in 2019 for me. So now I'm looking to join the board for as a member at large for Quebec.
Thank you so much. We're glad to have you. And finally, Emily Beaudeschon.
Hi, I'm Emily Beaudeschon. I'm joining you from New Brunswick. And I've been a member of Mom Stop the Harm for a couple of years now, looking to join as a representative for Atlantic Canada.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Emily. Good to see you. So as before, we will vote. We will have a poll, and this is again all or nothing. And so go ahead and vote, and we will see what happens.
And while people vote, I'll correct myself. This is actually not the first time we had one of our co-founders, Lorna Thomas, was actually the first person who stepped down for the board after working on it very hard. And Lorna continues to be one of our lead advocates in Alberta, where she has her hands on all kinds of things that need doing, and we are very grateful for that and for all Lorna has done on the board. And I also want to mention that all the board profiles of the current board, our candidates for today, as well as our former board members, Lorna, Helen, and Sheila, are on our website. So if you want to read in detail about what these, our team, what their background is, you can find the information there.
Thanks, Petra. And I'll say a couple words about Lorna as well, co-founder and amazing advocate in Edmonton for lots of political issues that are going on. I always loved and still do Lorna's sense of humor and her sense of, bringing our spirits up. So Lorna, so glad to be able to honor you. And I think you're here. Oh yeah, she is here, of course. Yes, Lorna is amazing. So how are we doing on the poll?
Yep, the poll has ended and it passed.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'm just so happy to acknowledge the returning board and the new board as elected. Welcome, everyone. Honestly, I feel a little choked up right now. It's really exciting to have this, injection of energy into the board. So welcome all of you. And yeah, it's just a really good thing. So yeah, thank you. Now, what's next? Now, I am going to turn the floor over to Petra, who will give us a presentation on decriminalization, what it is and what it isn't, and everything we need to know. Petra, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm on mute, okay.
There.
Yeah, and Angela, because I wasn't sure how well my internet connection would be here, Angela is kindly moving the slides forward for me. So this really builds on what Guy said earlier. Now, I just want to take a few minutes. We always say we want decriminalization. We need to decriminalize, and often people wonder what it really is. And I find that 90%, 95%, 99% of all politicians are confused about what decriminalization really is. So I want to parse it out a little bit. We can go to the next slide, Angela. So really, prohibition, as Guy mentioned earlier, is something that criminalizes the non-medical production, supply, and possession of all illicit substance, and there are punitive sanctions for this. And the levels of enforcement and severity can vary in different countries' jurisdictions, but there's enforcement is always part of criminalization. Oops, I have something pop up in front of me. And decriminalization of personal possession can operate somehow within the punitive system. It can be a subset for it. And basically, when we criminalize substances and substance use, the market is controlled by criminal entrepreneurs, by corrupt police, and by officials. It's not the government that controls the market. People who use it really those that make the money of it. And next slide, Angela. So what's currently legal and what's illegal, and we all know that changed a couple of years back. So what's legal is wine, beer, all kinds of alcohol, all kinds of tobacco, including vaping products, cannabis and cannabis products, coffee, tea. I included them here because they are a substance, they're a stimulant. And then prescription medications are also legal. And that's where it gets nebulous. Sometimes something that's legal can also be illegal. Before people mostly moved to the illicit market for substances, many, including my son Danny, was able to obtain OxyContin on the illicit market. He never had a prescription for it. And so it was a pharmaceutical, but the way he obtained it and possessed it would have still been considered illicit in that case. So it gets a little gray sometimes. What's illicit or illegal? Cocaine, crack, methamphetamine, benzodiazepines from illicit market, all kinds of opioids, as we heard from Guy, mostly fentanyl, also heroin. And then we have substances like MDMA, ecstasy, mushrooms, and other psychedelics. So those are the ones that we illicit and consider illicit. And as Guy explained earlier, what is legal and what is illegal really has a lot to do with politics and race, racism, and colonialism are a big part of it. What at some point in history was deemed legal and what is illegal often had to do with who society needed to oppress. In the United States, for example, if possession of cocaine was a lot less punished as methamphetamine, for example, or crack cocaine, who are really in the same class of drugs, but just in a different formulation. And as we heard earlier, opioids were banned as a form of oppression of Chinese, but only the way in which Chinese people consumed these substances were they banned. So we always, when we look at what's illegal, what's legal, we have to ask ourselves why and in what context. If you look at the harms, for example, one could argue that tobacco is one of the most harmful substances in terms of the physical harm that causes to our bodies. It's also highly addictive. MDMA and ecstasy, for example, in pure form, not contaminated, consumed safely, are less harmful than tobacco. One is legal, the other one is not. So these are kind of the two sets of substances that we are dealing with. And next slide, Angela. So if you look at decriminalization, in decriminalization, I'm comparing it here to legal regulation, and that's where the confusion often comes in. Like cannabis, for example, is legally regulated. Alcohol is legally regulated, so is tobacco. And legal regulation means, depending on the harms and the benefits of the substance, we regulate who can get it, where and how and when and how much will it cost, and how do we mitigate harms, like with tobacco, for example. We make it less available, we tax it very high, so less people use it. So that's legal regulation. But decriminalization means the substance is still illegal, but possessing the substance for personal use, it will no longer be a criminal prosecution. Trafficking is still illegal and trafficking is still prohibited. And sanctions will vary in that regard under decriminalization models. And there are some models where there are still sanctions, even when it's not criminalized, or where there are alternatives offered, like, for example, Portugal, or in Washington state, they have models where alternate sanctions are offered. Next slide, please. Now, decriminalization, there was recently a campaign in Vancouver, because Vancouver is moving forward with the application to decriminalize to the federal government. And in Vancouver, there is really a risk to do decriminalization wrong. And there was a campaign, Decrim Done Right. And what we see, when it's done right, the possession is decriminalized. People do not face criminal charges. And importantly, there are no sanctions, fines, penalties, and it's not at police discretion. Because if we make it at police discretion, who are police more likely to check or charge? We know that people who are racialized in this country, Indigenous people, Black people, people of color, are far more likely to be stopped and searched by police, far more likely to face charges, far more likely to be incarcerated. So if we decrim and we have that kind of leverage, decrim has gone wrong. People who use often share with others, and they might be buying ahead, especially during COVID. We told people to stay home. So they might be buying for more than a day. So then if we set thresholds, again, we run the risk of criminalizing people. from our position, ideally, there should not be thresholds for personal possessions, but if there are thresholds, they need to be determined by the people who know best, and those are people who use drugs and understand it. Now, when decrim has gone wrong with the model that Vancouver in part is proposing, it's done with conditions imposed. There might be fines, there might be sanctions, there might be mandatory treatment. Like in Portugal, for example, they have these dissuasion panels that people need to go to. There's officer discretion. And any sharing or using larger quantities or buying for others would be impossible under a model with low thresholds like the ones that are proposed in Vancouver. So what we are fighting for decriminalization is decriminalization done right. On the left side of the column. Next slide, please. So as Guy mentioned, where we really want to be in the long term is regulate. And right now we are fighting for decrim because there is so little political will even for decrim. It would be futile right now to work directly to legal regulation, but safer supply and decrim are ways and steps towards legal regulation. And they're really, how you would regulate substances, again, is with a public health model based on how harmful they are, the benefits they have, the hazards that they have, who should access, who should be prevent access from, and how can they safely be accessed. And for example, the restricted would be only substances that are available on prescription. You need a prescriber, a physician, somebody with the authority to prescribe. The next model would be where they are available at a pharmacy, where a trained and licensed pharmacist can distribute the substances. And then you have licensed sales. The licensed sale model we have with liquor, we have it with cannabis, to some extent with tobacco as well. Then we have licensed premises. We all know what licensed premises are. We call them bars, we call them restaurants, we call them pubs. And we could have licensed premises for other substances as well. And then for some classes of substances, we could go to a model where we have unlicensed sales, where it's just an open sale. You buy it, for example, at a drugstore or at a specialty store. And in essence, the substances would be freely available, but again, with regulations as to the age and who can buy and how much and where and how and all that. So these are 5 possible models of legal regulation. This information is from a UK group. If you go to the next slide, Angela. These sources, Transform Drug Policy, they have worked out these models. You also find good information in the Drug Policy Coalition and from HIV Legal on legal regulation. And we've been working towards this with our motions to municipalities and petitions towards that are presented in the House that you'll hear more from later. But basically what we are working towards right now is the decriminalization. We say the decriminalization of people who use drugs. That's really what we're aiming for. It's in essence a decriminalization of possession, but it's really the people who we want to be free from criminal charges, because it causes so much harm. It ruins people's lives. It causes people to hide their use from others, and then people use and in so many cases die alone. So the other part that is really, really important about decriminalization is that we need to shift resources. Once we decriminalize, the hope is that we can shift resources away from the justice system to the health and human service system. And that would especially be possible in conjunction with safer supply, where people no longer need to buy illicit substances. And the hope is that we need less police, we need fewer judges, we need fewer lawyers, we need fewer people in jail, so we need fewer jails. And that should free up a lot of money to go where it's really needed. And that's in helping people rather than locking them up. So I welcome questions. I know this is very brief and we should probably have a webinar at some point about that in detail, but because there is so much discussion around that, I wanted to kind of clarify where Moms Stop the Harm stands on this point. So we maybe have a moment for a couple of questions if there are any. I don't know, Angela or Jenny, were there any questions?
Just a question from Angela Steens, wondering if the PowerPoint would be available to share with her new nursing students.
Oh, totally. Jenny has a copy of the PowerPoint, and we can probably just post it with the AGM source or email it out to everybody who came. You know, it's already a PDF. And you just have to excuse if there is still a typo in there. Christine did a good job pointing out to me what I needed to fix. But yeah.
Ben asked about MDMA, MDMA, which is also called ecstasy.
Yeah, okay. And was there just a correction or a question? Sorry.
Just a correction on that, yeah. I mean, there's different terminologies, MDMA or ecstasy.
Yeah,
I think it was actually a letter. Sorry to interrupt. It was it was just the letter MDMA, not N as in Norman, but M.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we missed that.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
We'll
okay.
change that.
Yeah, they'll fix that.
If you're ever trying to Google it, you need to have the right letters.
Yeah, yeah. If there aren't any other, and thank you for your comments. This is a really important debate. And if you talk to a politician, we have some municipal elections coming up, we have some provincial elections coming up, we might even have a federal election coming up. This is something you want to ask your politicians, where do they stand on this point? And you want to be clear and explain to them the difference between decriminalization and legal regulation is where we want to be in the long run, not because we want people to use lots of drugs, but because we want substances to be available safely to people, to adults. We want adults to make safe and secure adult decisions. It's really what it's about. And anybody who's followed the cannabis debate, people who invested in cannabis, those stocks plummeted because Canadians, against all odds, did not run out and buy cannabis like crazy. People who consumed cannabis before still consume it now, hopefully via legal channels. But many people who didn't consume it before didn't run out to buy it because it's legal, which again highlights that point that Guy made earlier. Well, there's a question from Jan. Will it be possible to make progress in decriminalization without addressing the root causes? The Indian Act, Opioid Act. We can make progress on decriminalization. But once we move on to legal regulation, we need to look at the Indian Act and the Opioid Act and the harm. We need to look at the harm, especially in this country, the harm that colonization has caused and continues to cause. And some of you might not know that, but it's staggering. Both in BC and Alberta, reports have recently been released, and Indigenous peoples are disproportionately affected by substance use related harms at just enormous numbers. There is the Blood Tribe in southern Alberta, their overdose death rates is 22 times higher than the provincial average. Consider that. It's insane. So if you really want to change that, we need, there's lots we need to address, and colonialism is certainly among those things. So, but hopefully we'll have a longer discussion around this in an upcoming webinar. And thank you. Back to you, Leslie.
Thanks, Petra. That was awesome. And we all as advocates need to understand the differences and the intricacies of these directions, because as Petra said, it doesn't matter whether you're talking to your MP or your MLA or whatever meetings and committees you get on, you need to know really clearly what you're talking about. We all do. And also to be able to talk to the people in line at the grocery store and at, wherever you are, if the subject comes up. And it does often. It's amazing how many people are connected in some way to the drug harms that have happened over the last decades, but particularly the last 5 or 6 years. So next on our agenda, thank you so much, Petra, that was awesome, is news for 2021. And I'm going to hand the floor over to either Jenny or Katie. I'm not sure who is going to update us on the Stronger Together BC project.
Sure, I'll just check if Katie's in the house. She is our project lead, but I think she had to leave at 11:30.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so I will hopefully share an update with all of you regarding the Stronger Together BC provincial project. We were really excited last June 2020 to receive funding from the province of BC through the Community Action Initiative. That was in partnership with the Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions, along with the Overdose Emergency Response Center. And the BC project was titled Stronger Together, and it was launched last summer. The project goals centered on the development and the expansion of our support groups throughout BC, both Healing Hearts bereavement groups and Holding Hope, with a specific focus of really trying to develop these groups in smaller communities where there were very limited supports, and also develop the groups within our Indigenous communities. As been mentioned, they've been greatly impacted by the overdose crisis. Our project team worked hard to build partnerships throughout the province and in the recruitment and support of Moms Stop the Harm members who stepped up to volunteer as group facilitators for these groups. And now that we're moving into our second year, it's hard to believe that a year has gone by so quickly. It was a big project that got underway. But now we're moving into our second year. We have a number of groups beginning to start their support groups throughout the province. Here's a few highlights from our past year. We, as a team, developed and distributed a provincial survey in July to better understand the needs and the needs and opportunities for family-led support in BC, and also as a way of identifying membership who might be interested in starting or joining a group in their community. We also held information sessions with applicants who are interested in volunteering as a facilitator. We had over 40 people in attendance, and that was a great opportunity to provide an overview of our support groups, the roles and expectations, and the benefits for providing this support in different communities. We also developed 5 training opportunities for facilitators of the Healing Hearts bereavement groups and Holding Hope. And we also helped host a webinar by Dr. Gabor Mate on trauma, grief, and loss, which was a very popular and well-attended event in March. The other thing that you can look for and explore, we welcome you to check out the Healing Hearts Canada website. We've had this up and running for some years, but it got a bit of a facelift in January, and that's launched. And that is a great way for people who are searching for supports, bereavement supports. We hope they will connect with Healing Hearts, which is specific to substance use loss, related loss. We're just at a point where we've met Juanita, and I'm going to introduce her again after I give this update. But over the last 6 months, we worked hard to establish partnerships with Indigenous leaders. We developed a working group with representation from the First Nations Health Authority, elders and knowledge keepers, and people with lived experience. And the working group has met 6 times to date, And the goal of this group is to review our current facilitator manual for Healing Hearts. And they are working hard to translate that into a culturally safe manual with the goal of with Juanita's leadership, developing bereavement groups for Indigenous communities. We also partnered with Dr. Jamie Piercy from the UBC Psychology Department, who conducted a research study called Stopping the Harm, a psychosocial outcomes of families of the overdose epidemic. And that research study closed and has been summarized. And you can see the results of that research in the annual report, which is posted on our website right now. So I just want to share on a personal note, you know, both Angela, who's here today as well, and some of our other Healing Heart facilitators who've been running groups over the past 4 years are here and at this meeting, as well as our new facilitators that are coming on board. And I just wish to extend our deep appreciation to the Mom Stop the Harm facilitators who are part of this project and also part of the Canada Stronger Together project, because it's through your dedication and volunteer work that we're really making a difference in the lives of so many people that have been impacted by this crisis. And we know how valued this support is. So I'd like to hand it over to Juanita. I'm hoping she might still be here, who recently just joined our Project Together team here in BC in the last few weeks. She will be taking on the role of Indigenous Strategy Lead for Stronger Together BC, and she'll be adapting our Healing Hearts and Holding Hope models with cultural teachings, training Indigenous facilitators and supporting Indigenous communities to start groups in their community. So we're really thrilled to have you on board, Juanita. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Just thought we'd say another hello and introduce you as our project lead with Stronger Together.
Well, I just want to say hi to everybody. It's really an honor, you know, to be able to be in this position. I'm very happy in my heart, you know, to do the, you know, Indigenous cultural aspect on behalf of, you know, Indigenous people. So I'm going to really try my best to accommodate like all nations, universally, like unilaterally. And I'll share a little bit about myself. So my traditional name is Sinte Sapatawea. And again, that's, you know, who my ancestors and creator knows me by. It represents, you know, my spirit. And I've been doing this work on and off, but mostly on since I was about 17 years old. So when I was 17, I was a youth representative, and I got to go to Royal Commission in Victoria. And so at that time, what I did was I advocated on behalf of the young people, because at that time you had to be in the care of the Ministry of Children and Families to be able to access detox. There were no safe houses or anything. And so so that policy was changed with the Ministry of Children and Families. And at that time, there were only, I think, maybe three or four beds in all of the province of BC. And so we were successfully able to change that as well. And then youth detoxes became a part of BC, in which I sat on the first committee and board, and also for the first safe house that came to be in Vancouver. And so since then, I've been doing a lot of different work. I used to work as an addictions counselor as well many years ago, and myself as well. I, survived, my past history of addictions, and I, sorry, I was a little unprepared and stuff like for introducing myself, but I really have quite an extensive history of, having lived experience, and then also, going forward and advocating, for the people. And most of it, I don't get paid for. I do it because, it's the right thing to do. I've also been an active committee member for missing and murdered women for about 17 years. And I've been part of the working coalition with the political bureaucrats for the past, since the pre-inquiry, this last inquiry that's happened. And I also work with women who are impacted by violence as well. And mostly now I just work in the cultural capacity. So, bringing culture and teachings and facilitating groups that have that cultural aspect as well. And I'm a mother of a young man. And when I first found out I was pregnant, I had just gotten clean. And, I had a mark on me for apprehension. And at that time, well, this was my son here is my second, and my first one, I had a mark as well. And what we did at that time was we formed a support group, and we got our family doctor, which is Dr. Ronna Abrahams, to support us, saying that we could still successfully parent and be responsible without having to have our children apprehended. So we formed a harm reduction group, and it was one of the first harm reduction groups to that was modeled at that time in Vancouver. And so some things that resulted out of that was the FIR unit at BC Women's Hospital. And so we just wrote lots of letters and got funding, and there was 2 of us, so I'm a co-founder of that. And we started off in an apartment building, and that's how things evolved. And we knew it was the right thing to do to go forward, and that we had to advocate for ourselves. And so obviously since then, things have changed. And also as a parent, I don't know if this kind of makes sense, but because of what I experienced as a child and my family and the history, I knew I needed to make drastic changes. And so for me, it kind of meant going backwards. And what that means in the westernized language is it means that all of the westernized programs and everything that I had taken kind of helped me, but there was something missing. So what was missing in my life was culture. And it was more than that. It was language. It was learning, a different way of life, a sense of belonging. And so, I had to find those connections for myself. And I'm not saying that those programs didn't help me, but because I wasn't as privileged growing up, and my family and community had been greatly impacted by colonization, and I also am a 60s scoop survivor. I also shared my story at the inquiry for missing and murdered women. I got to share my experience of surviving murder, also witnessing, I had a lot of trauma and a lot of, different things that I witnessed while I was out there in my addiction. And so I got to share my story. I also experienced firsthand violence, racism, and discrimination at the hands of the Vancouver Police Department and the RCMP, upon which the inquiry had reason to believe that I had experienced that as well. And so, I had had to share, my experience with the lead detective with the Vancouver Police Department. But basically, there wasn't a whole lot done because he had to provide a report to the inquiry. So it didn't really give me any resolution as to what kind of steps I needed to take or anything else like that. But that's a little bit about me. Also, sometimes you'll see me in my car or I'll be outside, and this is me also honoring my spirit, doing what I love to do. And so, I'm still actively involved with, Zoom meetings, and very appreciative, of the ability to be able to do that so that I can connect, with the different areas and continue the work. So thank you.
We're so grateful that you're here and that you're going to help us in this project and that you could join us today. And I do Zooms in my car all the time too. So I've even done other interviews in my car. That's what we have to do when we're busy like this. Juanita, thank you so much. And I think that might be your son. Is he in the back seat there?
Yes.
Hi, having lunch. We're all hungry. Caught him eating. Thank you so much. And we look forward to more collaboration. We're glad you're here. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. See, Jenny, let's see, where are we? Petra, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, Petra is going to talk to us about Stronger Together Canada, for which Petra is instrumental in and really alone in applying for that grant from the feds and being able to take our support groups across the country. So Petra.
Yeah, for the longest time we suffered from BC envy, watching beautiful projects develop and seeing the need, really the need across the country, and the two, really what Mom Stop the Harm does can just be described in two ways. One is what we talked about today, our work we do to change drug policy and to work on our mission to save people's lives, literally. But the other part we do is support, mutual support for one another. And the Stronger Together projects are really important there because we support families who've experienced losses, but we also support families who have a loved one living with problematic substance use or a loved one in recovery. So when the opportunity arose, we applied for funding from the federal government. It's known as SUAP, the Substance Use and Addiction Program, through Health Canada, and we were successful in getting a grant that now allows us to take the work that BC has started in building healing heart groups for families who are grieving and holding hope groups for families who are supporting a loved one, to take these groups across Canada. And I'd like to briefly ask Tyler Savard to just say hello. And because Tyler is our Stronger Together Canada coordinator. And she's done some messaging. Just, you there, Tyler? She was messaging a moment ago. But anyway, Tyler Savard is our coordinator for Stronger Together Canada, and Antoinette Carvalette. I don't know if Antoinette is here at the moment. Antoinette supports holding hope groups and does training and such. And with their help, we've been able to build up the work in BC. And we will have groups coming in 4 provinces in Alberta, Manitoba, Nova Scotia, and Ontario. We already have some healing heart groups which we are supporting, but we are also building new healing heart groups, and we'll be adding holding hope groups in those communities. And we build on connection with all provinces. And I'd like to put out a call to each and every one of you and people who you know, we are really still looking for facilitators. And what we will offer is training for facilitators, ongoing support, and access to resources like bringing a psychologist into your healing heart or holding hope groups, bringing presenters in and such. So if you feel so moved that you might be interested in becoming a facilitator, either in BC or in the rest of Canada, please contact us. You can just contact info and the message will be forwarded to the right channel. Or for Canada, it's the longest email address in the history of mankind, I think. Stronger Together Canada at momstoptheharm.com, and try not to have any typos in that. So basically, this is where we're at with our team. We are starting to train, but we still really urgently need facilitators. Once we confirm which communities we will have groups in, we'll announce those, and we hope that you will join us there. So we really are thankful to the BC team that has led the way and makes it easy for us to roll out our project, because we have access to all the resources that they have created. We need your help, and we're really, really excited to be able to do that. So thank you for that. And I'd like to pass it over to Christine, who is saying something about regional advocacy. And over to Christine. Thanks.
Thank you. Hello. As some of you may know, I've recently launched a private Mom Stop the Harm Ontario advocacy Facebook group. As Ontario is a diverse province with communities spread out all over, the purpose of this group is to better facilitate conversations around advocacy in all our regions. It's a platform to share information, have events and resources. And we are also holding regular Zoom meetings about once or twice a month. So far, we've had 2 meetings and they've been very, very successful. So at these meetings, we want to discuss advocacy strategies to ensure that our voices, our collective voices, are heard in all levels of government. The main purpose of the advocacy group is to come together to share success stories and frustrations and talk about how we can affect positive change in Ontario to end substance use related stigma, harms, and deaths. As a group, we will have greater impact in our communities, and we are more effective with our collective voices to continue to address the ongoing failed drug policies. Our loved ones deserve streamlined pathways to treatment, evidence-based prevention, harm reduction approaches, and safe supply so we do not continue to lose our loved ones. We're currently working on a planning document to identify some key advocacy issues, projects that we would like to address in Ontario, keeping in mind with the Mom Stop the Harm mission, vision, and values. Advocacy, as you know, has many forms: posting wellness poems, memes, sharing pics, and telling our stories. Organizing memorial benches or gardens, sharing current news articles and research projects, writing letters, meeting with local politicians and local communities, participating in awareness campaigns and asking questions, and sharing our best practices. I will share my email in the chat section. If you are from Ontario and would like to join our group, you are most welcome. Missy and I would love your participation. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. That's very exciting to get that energy put into
Leslie, if I may just add to that, that in addition to Ontario, we now have regional Facebook advocacy groups also in other provinces. So, and Angela will be talking more about the Facebook groups. Maybe you can touch on that too, Angela.
Am I up next?
You are.
Okay.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Christine. Yeah, so working with Christine to help her with the advocacy groups in Ontario, and just touching on that, we really would like to get more provincial groups. So we're working on a Saskatchewan group. Manitoba already has a strong component with Overdose Awareness Manitoba. And we'd certainly like to have something in the maritime provinces as well. So if anybody's interested in leading up something like that, we're absolutely willing to speak with you. I've just put 3 of our private groups in the chat right now. Healing Hearts Private Bereavement Facebook group, which is available there. If you're not in that group already, then please join that. The Holding Hope, which is for families with a loved one struggling or with a loved one in recovery as well, is a private group for Holding Hope Canada. And then our original group, which is a larger group, there's about 600 people in that one, sort of encompasses everybody. And that's the MSTH closed group. That's the last group I shared in the chat. And that includes advocates, people who have lost a loved one, people who have a loved one who is using or in recovery. So they're really good supportive groups to be a part of. So please connect if you want. You will have to ask to join, and then one of us will add you into the group once we get your request. And so, yeah, Facebook is still a very big part of our advocacy. And many people use Facebook. We're also on Instagram, and we also have Twitter as well. So right now, this is social media has really been the only way that we've been able to sort of advocate through COVID and stay connected. Hopefully that will change once we're all vaccinated and we're able to move forward and have events. But I think social media is still a good way to do a lot of advocacy. So please stay connected through those groups.
Thanks, Angela. Yeah, it's really important part of how we all can communicate together. I know that Jenny already talked about webinars that we had, and ones that are coming up. One important one, and I hope everybody in Canada and who's here at our meeting will mark this on their calendars. We have Dr. Jennifer Charlesworth speaking to us on June 15th around the BC Bill 22 for what is called variously secure care, coerced care. It's about overdose youth who present to an ER in overdose situation and are can be locked up in the hospital for up to 7 days. She will tell us about the ins and outs of that, and the good news and the bad news, mostly sort of a negative approach to that kind of approach to harm reduction, if you want to call it that. And this may be true across Canada in different ways, and it may come up in different provinces. So I'd encourage everyone to mark your calendars for June 15th. I believe it's, Jenny, correct me if I'm wrong, is it 10 Pacific, 10 a.m. Pacific?
It's 1 p.m. Pacific. Yeah. 1
p.m. Pacific, and posters will continue, or notifications will continue to go out. So thank you so anyway, thank you, Angela. Thank you for that. And let's see, am I missing anything else here, Jenny? Go ahead.
I think I'm going to just give a brief overview of and highlights of the webinars that we organized this past year. And I think, is that right, Leslie?
Oh, I thought you already did that. We talked about Gabor Mate a little bit, or maybe we, go ahead.
Sorry.
All right.
That's okay. I think we did reference it in different discussions, but I think we just wanted to touch on the webinars that we held over the past year. And I think we did a quick pivot when COVID hit as an organization, and just shows how well we can adapt, as many people have, to COVID, and in terms of being able to really reach our membership and keep connected to our membership and keep them informed. And so, you know, we hosted, just as a review, we hosted over 15 events, webinar events in the past year. So that's more than one a month. And really, when I looked at the various titles that we held of the webinars, they covered areas of self-advocacy, skill building, education and awareness, self-care for our advocates that are working so hard, and also Moms Stop the Harm initiatives. So for example, for self-advocacy, skill building, we had our board member, soon to be board member, confirmed board member, Andy Watson, do effective media interviews and working with journalists. Petra offered a couple of webinars on from grief to advocacy, which were really well attended. We had Pivot Legal talking about understanding safe supply and decriminalization. And around self-care for advocates, another webinar that Angela organized was compassion, fatigue, and vicarious trauma, along with a bereaved Mother's Day concert. Webinars around our initiatives, we had information about the municipal resolution and federal petition, and a live streamed candlelight vigil for Overdose Awareness Day. So those are just a few of the 15 highlighted webinars. And I think as a board, we talked about how well attended they were. Some up to over 150 members attended. So we really reflect and have learned that this is an amazing tool, Zoom, for many of us, even as we return perhaps to anything normal. As an organization, we'll continue to hold webinars. So Leslie just flagged the upcoming webinar with Dr. Jennifer Charlesworth on Bill 22. I also just want to flag that we'll be hosting a webinar on how to plan an International Overdose Awareness Day event in your community. That's coming up quick. And so we have a webinar on that happening on Monday, June 14th at 4 p.m. And a great way to stay in touch regarding any webinars that we're planning is to always check our website. So please go to our website, you'll see an events page, and that's where webinars will be listed. So thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, Jenny. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I didn't know you were going to go tell all of those amazing things that we that we presented. And so thank you so much. And I think I really just give the floor back to you, because on my agenda it says T-shirt draw.
Hey.
So are you doing that with your basket of names?
Yes, I have a basket of all our, I think, close to 200 names here who've registered. And we're pulling for 3 Moms Stop the Harm T-shirts with our new logo on them. And you can see the designs again on our website. We have a store and you'll see the T-shirt designs there. So I shall pull the first name and then we'll be in touch with you regarding the order and the size. So I shall pull out the first name is Myrna Scarf.
All right, okay.
Don't know if Myrna's here today. If you are, we'll be in touch. And the next name is, sorry, that one didn't work. Hold on. I'm pulling up blanks here. Kelly Meckling. Kelly Meckling, if you're here. And then our last T-shirt. I wish we had a trip to Hawaii, but Deb Bailey.
Oh, all right.
You're next. Hold your name, Deb.
Excellent.
Nice.
Thank
Great.
you, Jenny, for the giveaway.
I'm Jennifer.
Yes.
I already have a shirt. Can you pull somebody else's name? Because I don't need another shirt.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Deb. Happy to do that. All right. And the next name is Juanita Desjardins.
Oh, good.
So that's great. I'm not sure if she's still with us. I will email all of you. And thanks so much. And please be sure to check out our store and our new t-shirts. We're also going to we have some up for International Overdose Awareness Day as well. So check it out.
Thank you. And I'm to give a few closing remarks. And I know in the interest of time, we want to move into our, quickly move into our breakout rooms. So I would just like to, and after the breakout rooms are done, we will be done. So I'm going to just say thank you so much for everyone who is here. You are so valued, and it makes us, it gives us impetus to keep going when we know you're all behind us. I hope this has been a great meeting, and I'm so grateful to everybody who organized speakers, and I want to thank Guy and Juanita and Petra for their presentations. They were really fulsome and important. I want to say that hopefully, maybe with a little optimism and good things happening, we can hold our next AGM in person. Imagine that. So more as it all develops across the country. Thanks everybody. And the breakout rooms, do I need to say anything about that, Jenny? I mean, they're going to happen automatically, right? Or
Yes.
oh, I guess I should, yeah.
So so we'll just automatically form into groups of Angela, I think we're thinking maybe 10, 10 groups. And there'll be 6 to 8 people in your group. And we're just inviting you to share your name, where you live, and who brought you to Moms Stop the Harm. And everyone should just have a chance to speak for around 2 to 3 minutes to introduce yourself and have time to chat. And then we'll come back for a final goodbye. So.
Oh, will you tell people, are the chat rooms going to close automatically at a certain time?
They will. They
Which
will.
is how
I
many
think
minutes?
we'll probably allow around 15 minutes.
So
because we're going to
people
have 6 people per group.
Oh, okay.
So around there. So here we go. And Angela, any last words?
No, just that we are having some people leaving, so let's maybe wait a few seconds until we see how many people we have here, and then we can figure out how many rooms. Did you want to set up the rooms?
Sure.
Jennifer? Yeah.
Here we go. So we have 50. So if we did, we have 50 people. So if we did 10 groups.
Yeah.
You know what? I just realized I should have done the motion to adjourn the meeting, the regular business meeting, the AGM, because then we're free and we can just do this. So I would like to move that we adjourn this AGM, and I think I'll have a seconder in Deb Bailey. Is that possible? So that's what it says here. Deb. And all in favor, we will go to the poll one more time.
I don't think we had a poll for that.
For this one. Okay, good. Fair enough. Yeah. All right. So there is the there's the that's the end of our amazing AGM. Thanks to everyone, and let's go to the breakout rooms.